All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about Oscar De La Hoya and his prediction for the Errol Spence Jr. Terence Crawford fight. People keep going both ways, but always fun conversation to have. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. We are still in the 147-pound division in this video. Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. hopefully will be having a fight with each other. That is not guaranteed as of yet, but legendary welterweight Oscar De La Hoya gives his 2 cents on the fight and who he thinks will win and who the top welterweight is. Let's talk about that in this video, but before we do, let me welcome you back to the channel, subscribers and supporters of the channel. Thank you guys so much for continuing to support the channel. If you're new to the channel, please accept my invitation to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos, which we do on a daily basis. We have live streams on a daily basis. I think you guys will really enjoy the channel and enjoy being part of this boxing forum. This is not a typical like media outlet for boxers or boxing or promoters. This is really a fan forum so that we can all talk about what we hear is going on in the sport of boxing and chop it up back and forth in the comment section in the live stream. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and join the channel. All right, so whole bunch of people have been making predictions about the biggest fight that we would have in years if it is actually successfully made between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. Yesterday, the day before yesterday, you had Sugar Ray Leonard come out and as usual pick against Errol Spence Jr. by saying that, you know, he thinks Terence Crawford is going to win the fight, but at the same time he said, yo, I like both guys. But what came out of his lip was Terence Crawford. You have guys like Sean Porter who've given his 2 cents on the fight and said that he thinks Terence Crawford's going to win. You have people out of John Innocent's camp saying Errol Spence Jr. is going to win. So you get a lot of back and forth. So might as well talk about what one of the greatest welterweights in the last 30 years has to say. Now I know some people, you know, get on Oscar De La Hoya for what has happened with him and goes on with him outside the ring. And some of the predictions that he makes for fights, you know, if he has a horse in the race, his predictions can be kind of crazy. But in this instance, he says that he believes that when asked, you know, what did you make of the Errol Spence Jr. Denis Ugas fight? Oscar De La Hoya said, look, man, it's what I thought was the case. Man, really proved to me, or you really proved to me that Errol Spence Jr. is the #1 welterweight in the world. The man was absolutely on top of his game, looked incredible. And then when he asked, you know, what do you think about the Terence Crawford fight? Do you think what he said was, excuse me, he's going to be very difficult for anybody to beat in that division. And so he said, well, what do you think? The interviewer asked, what do you think about Terence Crawford? He said, like I said, it's going to be very hard. We'll have to see. That fight should be, you know, made. You know, but obviously when he says he's the top welterweight in the division, he knows who he's talking about. He knows that Terence Crawford is in the division. And when he says it's going to be very hard for anybody to beat him, he's clearly favoring Errol Spence Jr. over any welterweight that is out there. Now, he did go in there and throw in his fighter Virgil Ortiz and said, yeah, you know, and then I got my guy Virgil Ortiz waiting in the wings for that. Like, yeah, waiting in the wings. I like that. I like that phraseology there. I like that phrasing, Oscar De La Hoya. Make sure you say your boy is out there in them wings, because he's not ready. And in my opinion, I don't think Virgil Ortiz I would put Virgil Ortiz as probably the fourth or fifth best guy in a division outside of Errol, Terence, Jaron Ennis, and then actually at 147 it may be Virgil Ortiz after that. Not sure of too many other people I would put ahead of Virgil Ortiz right now. Maybe Keith Thurman. Well, actually, I think maybe Keith Thurman I should put ahead of him because of, you know, the amount of experience that he has. But, you know, as far as the Terence Crawford Errol Spence Jr. fight, Oscar De La Hoya has Errol Spence. Now, I would have expected him to say Terence Crawford, because he fought more a style that was more reminiscent of Terence Crawford, more of an outboxer, somebody that could mix it up. But in the way that he approached the fight, not too different, man. Somebody that would fight from the outside, was a patient fighter to begin, had a very good jab, very good right, very, very, actually he was the opposite of Terence Crawford in this regard, where Terence is an orthodox fighter that will fight in southpaw, so he keeps his strong hand out in front. That's the same thing that Oscar De La Hoya did, except for Oscar De La Hoya was a natural southpaw that switched to the orthodox and kept his stronger hand and his stronger jab out in front. But he was not somebody that was going to systematically break you down and attack you like Errol Spence Jr. does. But the case is, Oscar De La Hoya most definitely knows his boxing, and I always have to point out, man, that Oscar De La Hoya is somebody that when he was fighting, I didn't appreciate him as much as when he stopped fighting. Because Oscar De La Hoya, who was definitely the golden boy of boxing and definitely in those middleweight classes, was, other than Floyd Mayweather Jr., who is the biggest guy, the biggest name and the biggest star in the welterweight division since Sugar Ray Leonard, he's a guy that literally fought everybody in that weight class and around that weight class. He never ducked anybody. The only person that people could say that Oscar De La Hoya might have avoided was Winky Wright at 154 pounds, but I think you make up for that when you fight somebody like Oscar De La Hoya at that, like when you fight somebody like Bernard Hopkins at that weight class. But he fought Sugar Shane Mosley, he fought Felix Tito Trinidad. Man, he just fought pretty much everybody around those weight classes that were tops in his time frame. And it's unfortunate that we really don't have a lot of that going on, but it seems like we got that going on with Errol Spence Jr., who's going for undisputed and wants to fight Terence Crawford. Now, I'm telling you, I did a video on this yesterday. I'm still holding out my God, how can I say this? I'm still reserving my opinion about whether or not that fight is going to happen next. I'm not completely convinced that it is. You have Keith Thurman, who just popped into the WBO rankings for the first time in I don't know how many years, and Terence Crawford had talked about fighting him before. Keith Thurman is talking about he wants to fight Terence Crawford. You still have the issue with the PBC and whether or not those guys really think that there's enough money in the fight, to make that fight. So, but we'll see, man. But when the fight goes down, I'm going to tell you for sure, this is one of the best fights that we could possibly be asking for. And, even though I have Errol Spence Jr. winning the fight, I can see how other people would have Terence Crawford winning the fight. But that's the stuff that really does make boxing great, man. When you have two guys of two radically different styles and two different people, two different groups of people that are really, really convinced their guy can win, you can't help but have an absolute classic fight with every minute in the fight. You're sitting on the edge of your seats for every minute of the fight. I certainly hope it gets made. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. That's what Oscar De La Hoya said. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.